Taking over as CEO of Kingdom Trust, Ryan, you bring a ton of experience to the table, and I know the company's going to benefit from that. But you also bring an interesting concept to the table, which is very interesting to me around Austrian economics. Walk us through how you think Austrian economics will help shape the crypto industry.
So you know what was interesting, what I learned, I got into Bitcoin in 2012. And what got me into Bitcoin, like most of us, was my study of macroeconomics. And I was a student of the Japanese yen. And if you study the yen, it's the most incredible macro story out there with all of the central bank buying basically 100% of JGBs. And it's this amazing macro story. And what I noticed about the Bitcoin community is that a lot of them started investing from an economics viewpoint that was kind of different than just a portfolio analysis standpoint, meaning they were kind of leading with their belief in Austrian economics as a main driver for why they were investing, as opposed to, here's an interesting diversification to a portfolio and a modern portfolio theory. So what you saw in the Bitcoin community was this group of investors that were investing, kind of leading with their hearts and their Austrian belief. And where else that is represented is in the gold community. You have a lot of gold buyers that aren't buying gold because of the natural diversification ratios that you get from that and where it blends in with the modern portfolio theory. They're investing because it's a belief system. And what's interesting about the concepts of Bitcoiners and gold bugs is that you've got an Austrian belief that the legacy system is flawed, right? The endless printing of central banks, the high correlation between stock market prices and stimulus packages from governments and banks. There's this disbelief in that system. So rather than looking at like a portfolio theory of investing my savings, they're leading with an economic Austrian belief set. So what's interesting about that is that manifests itself not just in Bitcoin, but also in gold and land and other like hard assets that are disconnected from this interwoven web of other assets over here, like stocks and dollars and legacy assets. So when I see in our customer base and the rest of the Bitcoin community, you have this really interesting kind of economics belief system that's the lead, as opposed to other types of investment criteria and thought processes. So that's what we mean by that.
Ryan, back in 2009, I did a ton of work for two of my major hedge fund clients around inflationary environments and hard assets. And when I think about hard assets, we talked about real estate, we talked about gold, we talked about stocks. Obviously, me being an equity guy, that was the main topic of the conversation. But what's even more interesting is now you have another asset in Bitcoin. How do you think we should be thinking about Bitcoin? Is it an asset? Is it an asset class? Walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin itself is the digital manifestation of Austrian economics, full stop. I mean, and how it got that title and how it earned that was almost completely around its monetary supply schedule. So as we saw yesterday, actually, the halving of Bitcoin's new issuance of supply was cut in half. This is within the same month that the on-balance sheets positions of central banks around the world have, many of them doubled and inflated into record levels. So the idea of Bitcoin is taking the analog manifestation of Austrian economics, which is gold, and applying that digitally. And therefore, when you're talking about Bitcoin now, it isn't just a conversation around, is it a currency? Is it going to fail or not? You're having a discussion around the concept of Austrian economics versus Keynesian, in the same way that we have around the concept of a gold standard versus a debt-denominated currency system, in which all other assets are priced on. So that's where and why Bitcoin has earned its way into the arena of Austrian economics, and it deserves to be there, very much so.